Twin Toy Army.
Hi Twin Toy Army, my name is Chris and I do all the visual effects and help Daddy Aaron with editing the videos every week. Even though he's not my dad, everyone calls him Daddy, so I've gotten into the habit of doing so as well. So if you hear me calling him Daddy, hopefully you'll understand. Last week we tried something a little different and did a first-person GoPro battle. Now, a lot of you guys have been asking us how we did the heads-up display, or the HUD, as it's called in video games. All the graphics you see, like the gun being used, and the person shooting, and the score, and all that fancy stuff. A lot of you guys wanted to know how we did that. So hopefully this video will kind of briefly go over how I did those effects for the video. So the first step in creating a HUD is by using a piece of software, or a program, or an application called Photoshop, or something like it. What Photoshop is a program that is used to design little graphics like these. You can use it to paint images, you can use it to modify photos, and you can do it to do things like the HUD here. So when I first started out, the first thing I did was I created an image file, or a project file I should say, that is the same size as the video. So HD videos, depending on how high of quality of the video, you're going to choose a different size. So let's say I'm starting out from scratch, right? So here I want to choose 1920 by 1080 pixels in size. What that basically means is that you're going to make an image that's perfectly big enough for an HD 1080p video, perfect for YouTube. So I first started off, let's add these things back in slowly but surely. I added in this. So I started off with a box in the corner. All that these are simple shapes and text. Anyone can do this. It looks a little fancy, but it's just, the secret is time. You just need to dedicate a bit of time to making these fancy, but there's nothing complicated. They're just basic shapes. So I started off with a little rectangular shape, as we see here. What I'm going to do, just so you can see better, I'm just going to zoom into this area. So I just made a little box, and then I wanted the photo to be in the middle. So all I did was I made a hole in the middle. Now, obviously what I did is a bit more complicated than just a little square, but just to kind of show you guys the basics, this is basically what I did. And then, I'm just going to remove the fancy little graphic here. Whoop, not that fancy graphic, this one, so you can see the image of Mommy here. All I did was I found an image, and then I cut it to the shape of the box, and then I added it to the middle. And then I added text at the bottom. I wrote Mommy. Then just on top, what I did was I added what I'm calling, or what I referred to as, the status. So if the player was either active, whether they were still in the game, or whether they were shot and eliminated. So after adding this, I wanted to add the score. The score, all it is a little box with text. Score, kids' parents. I like to keep these things simple. It looks fancy and, all awesome, but when it really comes down to it, it's just simple shapes and a little bit of text. For the round number in the middle here, round 5, round 6, round 4, 3, 2, 1, all I did was, once again, just to zoom in here, all this is a little rectangle that I cut out some fancy shapes out of. That's all it is. So if I do this, all I did was cut out some fancy shapes, and it's really just as simple as that, and then I added text in the middle. So all you need to do is all these shapes, and you slowly but surely say, okay, I want the score here, make a box, put the text, I want a photo here, make a box, and then put the photo, and just kind of build it up. Then, lastly, there was the gun. So for every single gun, what I did was I found images of the Nerf guns on Google, and then I cut them out all by hand so that the background would be transparent, would be invisible, so you'd only see the gun. and then I put it in the corner here. But you have every single gun that I cut out here and added the names. I think, as I said before, there's something like 30 guns in the entire video, so this took a very, very long time. This is what took the most time. Here, the black background, the reason why the background is black right now is just so that it helps me to design these. It helps me to create the shapes and to see what I'm doing. But when everything's done, I want to make it invisible. So what I do is I take the black background that I have here and I remove it. Whenever you see this weird little pattern here, what that means is that all of this is invisible. This is important because how we do the effect, how we achieve the effect of the HUD is we have the video and then we put the HUD on top of it as an image. And that image has to have transparency. Why? Because we want to see the video underneath it. So, for every single player, everyone has a different HUD, meaning every HUD has its own image. So I'm going to save an image for Eli's HUD. I'm going to save an image for Liam's HUD. So if ever I want to do Liam's HUD, then I switch it over to green. I choose Liam's image. And then I'm going to switch the name at the bottom so that it's Liam. And I do that for every single player. And I also do one for every single time they're eliminated. So let's say Liam has just been shot in the game and he's out of the game. Then what I do is I change the status. It's hard to tell because the background's invisible. That's why I add the black just temporarily so I can see. Eliminated. And then I save this as its own image. So every single HUD, for when they're alive, for when they've been eliminated, they each have their own separate image. I also added the rules, so I save that as its own image. So what I do is I save this as its own image, and finally every single gun is saved as its own image. So what you see here is one picture, right? So this is one picture, and then this is one picture, and then this is one picture, and the background is always invisible so that we can see the video behind it. So once I've saved all these images, I have something like 45 images, then I go into another program to add these to the video, and I'll show you that right now. So now we're in a program called Adobe Premiere Pro. This is what I use to edit videos. Now, it's important to know that you don't need to use the same program to create this effect. A lot of video editing programs will allow you to do this. So don't concentrate on exactly what buttons I'm hitting and what I'm doing exactly. Just keep in mind what I'm doing and try to apply it to your own program, if that makes sense. Basically, we're starting out here. If you can see on the top right hand corner, we have the video, just the raw GoPro video. So this is, I believe, is Eli's camera, and then I switch it over to Liam's. If we keep going, we keep going, Liam's shooting. He starts to run away, and then we cut to Daddy's perspective. So now, this is Daddy's GoPro. We keep going, and he gets hit, and he falls. And then we go back to Eli, who says, "Haha, I got you." And this is just the example we're going to use to showcase how I did the effect. So first, we have Eli, as I mentioned. So I'm going to find the start point, which is, of course, here at the beginning. And as I was showing before, in Photoshop, I saved every single HUD as its own little image with a transparent background. Now this is important because we're going to use this video as the background, and then we're going to use the images for what we refer to as the foreground. So the foreground is what is in front, the background is what is behind. So the video is the background, and the HUD graphics are the foreground. And so in Photoshop, we made the background transparent so we can see the video behind the graphics. So this is the HUD of Eli when he's active, when he's alive, because this is the beginning of round 1, so no one's been shot yet. So what I want to do is find the point in the video when it changes over to Liam. right? I want to find the exact point, right? So this is the point where it changes to Liam. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that the image lasts as long as this part of the video, so that whenever we are on Eli's camera, we see Eli's HUD. And then when we move over to Liam's perspective, I want to take the image of Liam's HUD, which I find here, and I put it on top here. I'm going to keep going until we switch to Daddy's camera. Okay, so I keep going, and there we go. So now we switch to Daddy, so I take the image of Daddy's HUD and I add it on top, and then I keep going until I see that it switches to Eli. There we go. So now it switches back to Eli, and I'm just going to find Eli's HUD image and place it here. So there we go. So as we can see in the video, start off Eli's HUD, then we switch to Liam, then we switch to Daddy, and then we switch back to Eli. These are just pictures, they're just images. Okay, so now the second part that we need to think about are the guns. We need to add the guns. So I have a whole bunch of funky little stuff here, so don't worry about all this stuff. It's a little confusing at first. I forget which gun Eli starts off with, but I believe, let's use Liam as an example. I believe he uses the Strife. So I'm just going to go down, find the Strife image that I created, and then add that as its own little image on top. There we go. So, and then I trim it down as before so that it only appears when we're on Liam's perspective. There we go. And then I believe Daddy uses the Atlas. Is that it? I could be wrong. I believe it's the Atlas. So I just add every gun individually. There we go. Now, as we can see, Daddy gets hit by a bullet. And when that happens, he goes from active to eliminated. So I want to find the moment where he's hit by the bullet. Oh, so we see the bullet here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move on over to the next frame, the next image in the video sequence. So after the bullet disappears, this is when he gets hit. And then I want to change the HUD because he's no longer active, he's eliminated. So I go into the HUDs here. I find the one for when he's eliminated, and then I switch. Here we can see he gets hit, and then the HUD shows that there's an X on his picture, and it says eliminated instead of active. So boom. Basically, you just need to repeat this for the entire video. So whenever you switch from one person to another, you make sure that you put the right image on top, that you have the right gun, and basically you just do this for the whole video, and you have a sweet little GoPro battle. It's really as simple as that. It looks a lot more complicated than it is. And I know that even in this video it seems a lot more complicated, but all you need to remember again is you shoot your video, you create your images, you make sure that they're transparent in the areas where you want to see the video, and then you take your images and you put it on top of the video, and it's really as simple as that. Okay, well, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments down below, and let us know if you'd like us to do more of these special kind of behind the scenes where we show effects. For example, eventually I'd like to show you guys how we do all the muzzle flashes, all the little gun effects that you see in the other videos. You might be interested in learning how to do those. Let us know, and maybe, just maybe, if you guys are open to it, Daddy will let me make another video for you guys. Anyways, this has been Chris signing off, and this week we've got a very special video for you guys. I think you'll enjoy it. Anyways, I'll see you guys hopefully in another video. Bye-bye.
Here's a teaser from our video. Bye!
See you later, dude. See you later, dude.
Christmas is
It's not Christmas. It's Halloween's coming up, Willis.